Right now, it probably feels like nothing is moving. Like everyone else got some head start you missed, and you're still standing in the same spot you were a year ago, waiting for your life to finally start going right. So here's the part. Nobody tells you. The reason this is landing for you today is that it already started. The chapter where it all goes right has almost certainly already begun for you, and the exact feeling you're using as proof that it hasn't, the stuckness, the fog, the sense that things are coming apart, is the first page of it. You didn't fall behind. You turned the page and mistook the first line for the end. There's a reason this feels like falling apart instead of a fresh start. Carl Jung found it in his own life, in the years he thought he was going insane. And there's a reason you're the one seeing this right now, instead of scrolling past. We'll get to both. Stay with me. Let's start with what you already believe, because you're not wrong to believe it. You know how this is supposed to work. There's a waiting part, and there's a good part, and right now, you're in the waiting part. The good chapter starts when something out there changes, when the money finally comes in, when the right person shows up, when you catch the break you've been grinding for. Until then, you keep your head down and you keep going, because good things come to those who wait. You've heard this your whole life, phrased 100 ways. Everything happens for a reason. Trust the timing of your life. Your season is coming. New year, new you. You've probably watched a few videos this year that promised the universe was lining things up for you, if you were just patient enough. And I'm not going to stand here and tell you all of that is nonsense, because it isn't. Timing is real. Some things genuinely can't happen until the conditions are right. Patience isn't a scam, and the people telling you your time is coming aren't lying to you. So you did the reasonable thing with your own life. You looked at the stuckness, the fog, the sense that nothing's landing, and you decided you're just not there yet. You're early. This is the waiting room. Keep going, and eventually it'll turn. It's a clean story. It's reasonable, and almost everyone you know is living inside some version of it. So let me ask you one thing that doesn't quite fit. If the good chapter really begins when your circumstances change, why do the people who get the exact things you're waiting for so often say that nothing changed at all? And if you've been telling yourself, my time is coming, I'm just not there yet, do something for me. Comment. I thought I was still in the waiting room. I'll show you why that comment matters more than you think in a minute. That story you're living in has a name. I call it the arrival myth. The belief that the good chapter is an event that arrives from outside, switched on by luck, or timing, or finally getting the thing. Forget making that arrival come faster. The real question is why it's already here, and why you've spent this whole time reading the first page of it as the last page of something else. Some nights, the screen is the wrong place for this. If you'd rather just listen, Surreal Mind is on Spotify now. The words, in the dark, wherever you are. Links in the description, because the arrival myth says the change has to come from outside first. Everything that happens next should confirm it. So watch what actually happens instead. 3 things, and none of them fit. Here's the first one. Think about the people who already got it. The windfall, the promotion, the recognition you're still waiting on. If the arrival myth were true, that's the exact moment their good chapter should have switched on. In the 1970s, a group of researchers went and studied that moment directly. They interviewed people who had won major lottery prizes, the literal jackpot, and measured their happiness against ordinary people who hadn't won anything. What they found became one of the most cited results in the whole psychology of happiness. Within about a year, the winners had drifted back toward roughly the same baseline of everyday happiness they'd had before the money. The thing you're waiting for got handed to real people, in full, and the chapter didn't turn. And it isn't only lottery winners. Ask anyone who finally got the promotion, the house, the ring they were certain would flip the switch, and a surprising number of them will go quiet and admit the switch never actually flipped. So if the arrival didn't do it for them, then whatever actually turns the chapter was never inside the arrival to begin with, which means it's coming from somewhere else. Here's the second thing that doesn't fit. Transformations don't tend to begin after things get good. They begin in the stretch that felt like the worst. Carl Jung knew this from the inside. In 1913, he was at the peak of his career. By his own account, in the 40th year of his life, he had achieved, in his words, honor, power, wealth, knowledge, and every human happiness. He had arrived by every measure the arrival myth cares about. And that is precisely when it came apart. After his break with Freud, Jung fell into years of disorientation, of visions so vivid he doubted his own sanity. He wrote later, plainly, that at the time he was convinced he was, quote, menaced by a psychosis. He thought he was losing his mind. He called it, for the rest of his life, his confrontation with the unconscious. It was the worst chapter of his life. It was also the ground that everything he's remembered for grew out of. Hold on to Jung. We're coming back to him, because his collapse is the whole key. Here's the third thing. When the right people and the right opportunities do finally start showing up, they don't arrive first and change you. They show up after something in you has already moved. Jung spent decades on this pattern and gave it a name you've heard: synchronicity, meaningful coincidence. He noticed these uncanny, well-timed events tended to cluster around people right as they were changing on the inside. His most famous example, a patient, brilliant, and completely sealed off behind her own rationalism, was telling him a dream about a golden scarab. At that moment, he heard a soft tapping at the window. He turned, and there was a beetle, the closest living thing to a golden scarab in that part of the world, trying to get into the dark room. He opened the window, caught it in the air, and handed it to her with 4 words. "Here is your scarab." It cracked her open, but notice the order. The shift was already underway in her. Then the world answered it. Stop on that for a second. 3 things you were sure of: that it comes from outside, that falling apart means it hasn't started, that the luck arrives first. All 3 just failed to explain what actually happens, 3 times in a row. The model you walked in with is already coming apart in your hands. Notice what's happening to you right now, because it's a little uncomfortable. You're rebuilding a story you've carried for years, that you're behind, that you're waiting, that it hasn't started yet, and part of you wants to snap it back into place, because half rebuilt is the worst place to stand. Don't. Stay in it. This next part is where your whole read on your current life changes. A new one is already assembling in your head, whether you want it to or not. The good chapter is a transition. It runs from the inside out. It moves through stages, in order, and you are standing inside one of them right now. That first stage, the one almost nobody recognizes, I call the false ending. The opening of the whole transformation, wearing the costume of the end of everything. Jung had a word for the larger process: individuation. He defined it as becoming, in his phrase, an individual, coming to selfhood, becoming who you actually are instead of who you were assembled to be. And he was clear that it reliably begins by taking the old self apart. What you've been calling the waiting room, Jung called the beginning. If that just moved something in you, comment, I was reading the beginning as the end. So if you're already inside this, the only question left worth anything is where exactly. This is the shape of it, stage by stage. Find yourself in it. Stage 1, the false ending. From the inside, it feels like this. The things you built your identity on start to quietly stop working. The job that used to fit, the relationship, the plan you were so sure of, the version of you that always knew the next move. Nothing detonates. It just goes hollow. The color drains out of the life you had, and you can't even explain why. Because on paper, nothing is wrong. The arrival myth reads this: one way only. Failure. You're slipping. You're falling behind. But here's the mechanism underneath it. The old self has to loosen its grip before a truer one can take shape. And from the inside, that loosening is impossible to tell apart from falling apart. That's the cruelty of this stage. It looks identical to failure, which is exactly why so many people bail out right here, one page into the good chapter, and start the waiting all over again. And there's a trap inside the trap. Because it feels like failure, you try to fix it the old way. You push harder. You draw up a new plan. You try to force the old life back to life. But you can't revive something that's finished dissolving on purpose. The exhaustion you feel is the cost of fighting a process that was on your side the whole time. Now come back to Jung, because this is where he earns the right to walk you through it. Those years after Freud, roughly 1913 to 1919, he was a respected man, losing his footing completely. He saw waking visions of Europe drowning in blood. He heard voices. He built little towns out of stones down by the lake, like a child, just to hold himself together. He genuinely did not know if he would come back sane. His colleagues drifted away. From the outside and from the inside, it looked like the end of Carl Jung. It was the opposite. Everything the world now knows him for, the archetypes, the collective unconscious, individuation itself, all of it came out of those exact years. He later described the dreams and visions from that time as the prima materia, the raw ore of his entire life's work. The man wasn't breaking, he was beginning. He just had to live through the stage that feels like the end in order to reach the part that was actually the start. Sit with how close he came to quitting on it. If Jung, of all people, spent 6 years certain he was going mad while he was actually doing the most important work of his life, then the fog you're standing in right now deserves a second look before you call it failure. And if this is quietly rearranging how you see the last year or two of your life, subscribe before you forget to. This channel exists to put language to the parts of your life nobody else will name. Okay, back to it. Because the false ending is only stage 1. Something has to actually turn. So what turns? This is the turn. And it's so quiet you can miss it while it's happening. It doesn't feel like a breakthrough. It feels like exhaling. One day you notice you've stopped performing for people who were never really watching. You stop forcing the thing that was never yours to force. You start trusting your own read on your own life, even when you can't prove it to anyone yet. Small, almost unremarkable, and it's the hinge the entire transition turns on. Here's what's actually happening. For years you'd been pouring your energy outward, into a version of yourself built to be approved of, and into other people you'd quietly made responsible for how you feel. In this stage, that energy comes home. You take back the parts of yourself you'd handed away. Jung mapped this precisely. He said the task is to dissolve the projections in order to, in his words, restore their contents to the person who had lost them by projecting them outside himself. Strip out the clinical language, and it's simple. The strength you admired in other people and assumed you lacked, the power you handed to whoever's approval you were chasing, you call it all back. You stop outsourcing your own life. And this is the piece the arrival myth gets exactly backwards. It tells you the change lands from outside, and then you feel different. In reality, it runs the other way. I call it the inside-out order. Nothing out there reorganizes until something in here moves first. The first thing that goes right in the chapter where it all goes right isn't your circumstances, it's you. Jung wrote it down in his own darkest notebook, the one he kept during the collapse. The way, he wrote, is within us, not in teachings, not in laws, not in other people. There is only one way, and that is your way. He wasn't being poetic. He had just watched every external map fail him and found the only compass still pointing true was pointed inward. He wrote something else in there about the waiting, and you need to hear it, because you've been treating your waiting as wasted time. When the creative force finally turns inward, he wrote, "The soul becomes green, and its field bears fruit." And then this line, "Nobody can spare themselves the waiting." The waiting was never you falling behind. It was the field going green underground, before anything breaks the surface. That's the shift. Feel how different it is from waiting for a delivery. You're not at a window watching for your life to show up. You're becoming the person it's been waiting on. And the moment that happens, something strange starts happening around you. Now the outside starts to move. This is the part you were promised. The right person appears. The unlooked-for opportunity. The idea that arrives at the precise moment you needed it. The coincidences the arrival myth told you to sit and wait for, except the timing is wrong. They show up after the shift, never before it. Here's the mechanism, and I have to be careful with it, because this is exactly where videos like this one usually drive off a cliff. This is not think it, and the universe delivers. You are not bending reality with your mind. What's actually happening is more grounded, and honestly, more interesting than that. When your inner state changes, what you notice changes. What you're willing to do changes. Who you walk toward changes. So a world you'd been walking straight past for years starts responding to a genuinely different person. The opportunities were probably always there. You just couldn't see them from inside the old self. Now you can. This is what Jung meant by synchronicity. Go back to that beetle at the window. He never claimed the woman's mind magically summoned an insect. He was a scientist. He called his own descent a scientific experiment he was running on himself. What he documented was subtler than magic. That meaningful coincidences cluster around people right as they change on the inside, as if the inner world and the outer world were briefly rhyming. He worked through it with a physicist, Wolfgang Pauli, precisely because he refused to let it collapse into superstition. So hold the honest line here. The coincidence is real. The magic isn't. You changed, and the world started answering a different question because you had finally started asking one. That distinction is the entire difference between doing this work and waiting on a wish to land. Now, some people reach this stage, and some people stay stuck in the false ending for years and never cross over. But stay with this, because there's one stage left, and it's the one you're standing in right now. Stage 4. And you're living it as you listen. You're watching this, and it's landing in a way most things don't. That, right there, is the data. The mechanism behind it is also the reason this video has the title it has. You don't go searching for a precise description of a doorway you haven't walked through. And a description of a threshold doesn't hit like recognition unless some part of you is already standing on the other side of it. That resonance you're feeling is diagnostic. It's the psyche recognizing a place it already stands in. You're seeing this because you've already entered it. The recognition is the receipt. Jung had a word for this exact feeling, the charged, unmistakable sense that something you're encountering is speaking directly about you. He borrowed it from the scholar Rudolf Otto, the numinous. That jolt of "this is about me" is the psyche catching sight of its own reflection. It's what you felt a few minutes ago, when the false ending described the precise texture of your last year. That wasn't a coincidence. That was you, seeing yourself. I call this last stage the recognition. The moment the description of the threshold and your own felt sense of it collapse into a single thing, and you realize the map was a map of you the whole time. If you felt that at any point in the last 20 minutes, comment, "I didn't find this video, it found me." Which means the story you've been telling yourself about this entire season has been running backwards. Let me show you what it actually was. Put the 4 stages together and look at what you're actually standing inside of. The false ending, the shift, the world responding, and the recognition you're feeling right now. That isn't a random run of bad luck followed by a vague promise of better days. That's a transition. It runs inside out, in a fixed order, and you are demonstrably somewhere inside it. So here's the click. This whole time, you haven't been failing to start your life. You've been living through a transition and grading it as a failure because no one ever told you that the first stage looks exactly like the end. Go back and look at your own evidence. Every single thing you were using to prove the good chapter hadn't started. The confusion, the coming apart, the endless waiting was evidence of the opposite the entire time. You were never actually stuck. You were in the part of the process that only feels like being stuck. You read the fog as a wall. It was a door, and you were already halfway through it. And this is the part that's actually yours to keep. You understand your own current season right now at a level you didn't have half an hour ago. Not good things are coming. The actual mechanism. Why it had to feel like collapse. What turns first. Why the outside always lags the inside. And why this reached you exactly now. You can locate yourself in your own life. That's the whole reward. That's the thing no arrival could ever have handed you. Jung spent his life on one idea above all the others. That the self, the whole, and integrated you is where life is headed. Something you grow into across the whole of it. He called it the goal of a life. The completest expression of who you are. You were never failing to reach the good part. You were being assembled into the person who could hold it. Jung wrote something in that same collapsed notebook that reads like it was meant for this exact moment. He said outer, visible success, the kind you can grab with your hands, quietly leads a person astray until they finally open their eyes and see their own real success, the one that was never out there to be grabbed. You spent years measuring yourself by the visible kind. This whole time, without realizing it, you were building the other one. There's a line he loved, from the poet Hölderlin, "But where danger is, grows the saving power also." He didn't quote it to be poetic. He quoted it because he had lived it, the danger and the deliverance growing from the same root, exactly the way they're doing in you right now. So hear all of it back, quickly. The emptiness was never the good stuff ending. It was the old self loosening its grip. The exhale wasn't you giving up. It was the shift finally arriving. The coincidences weren't luck showing up late. They were a changed you meeting a world that could finally answer. And the fact that this landed so hard tonight was never you being dramatic. It was recognition. You've been standing inside the chapter this whole time, waiting for it to start. None of this means you sit back and wait for the rest to be delivered. It means the opposite. You stop bracing against the season you're in. You stop reading the discomfort as proof that you failed. and you start moving as the person this transition is already turning you into, instead of the one still standing around in a waiting room that closed a while ago. You didn't fall behind. You turned the page and mistook the first line for the end. So tell me where you are. Of the 4 stages, which one just described you? The false ending, the shift, the world starting to respond, or the recognition? Comment the one that landed, and read a few of the others while you're there. You'll see how many people are standing exactly where you are. Thank you for watching. See you in the next dimension. Empaths aren't broken. They're alchemists in progress. The Alchemist's Path gives you drills, Jung-based boundaries, and 3 exclusive chapter videos to turn overwhelm into clarity. By Surreal Mind, 236-page downloadable ebook in stock. Begin now at thesurrealmind.com.